importantly, I would love to answer your questions, right? You've shown an interest. Some of you want to fly, you want to learn about flying. Ethan and McKenna and Ariana, is that right? You told me you want to join the Air Force. Again, that's great. So I would love to, it's more important that I address your questions than to hit the notes that I prepared for today. So I'm going to start by telling you my story. Computer science graduate from Tulane University at the bachelor's level, master's in strategic intelligence at the Defense Intelligence Agency, the Air Force, and a master's degree in aeronautical science from Emory. The only reason why I tell you that is that I have a desire to learn. I love to learn. When Dick told us that he had 50 years of aviation, I don't know if you noticed, I moved from my chair there in the Silver Bill, and I snuggled up with him during the break to pick his brains on his aviation journey, because anyone that has an experience that I don't have, or knowledge that I don't have, I just love to pick the brains and talk to them. This is a discussion. This is a discussion with you about my career path. So I started out, again, not knowing what I wanted to do when I was in middle school, but more importantly, I was not introduced to aviation. And that's what everyone here is here to help you with. Everyone in this room that's not a teenager is here to, that's not a teenager. We simply want you to win. And aviation is one potential path to do so. Within aviation, there's a pilot career field, but whatever it is, we simply want you to win, and this is why we're here. So, how did I get started? Well, before that, let's talk about within the pilots. We're talking extended. We're down to aviation, and more specifically, pilot career fields. I could use some help. Let's brainstorm some of the types of pilots that we find in the industry today. Can anyone help me with that? What's probably the most common or the most popular type of pilot in the industry? Like, please, shout it out.
Somebody who's fly with commercial airliners.
Airline, right? I think we all know about airline pilots. What about another? How about helicopter pilots? Yeah. I saw a balloon pilot.
Flight instructors.
Flight instructors. We have a representative from that community. No need to raise your hands. Just shout it out. Are there any others? How about drone pilots? Right? That's a growing career field. Remotely piloted aircraft. It's a great way to be involved in aviation. There are, I think we heard corporate pilots. There are also business jets. And then, okay. We have cell phones. We place orders on Amazon. The next day, our order shows up at our door. How did that get there? They're cargo pilots, right? So there's an entire laundry list of ways to fly airplanes for a living. The path that I took was that of military aviation. So I've been a professional pilot for 25 years. Started out in the Air Force and then transitioned to corporate, and that's what we'll talk about today. And I'll start with that military entry to service. Started with the Air Force ROTC scholarship, right? I have a high school senior and a high school freshman at home, and so the cost of education is a common topic at our university. And so for my family, we saw that was the most cost-effective way to get me to my goal, which was to, initially, it was to lead airmen to help people. I later found aviation, and later found the pilot career field. It also was a way to defray the costs of flight training, right? Flight training is also quite expensive, and that's something Kim and I talked about earlier today. But joined the Air Force on an ROTC scholarship, and then went on to Air Force Flight Training School. It's a 52-week program, and I showed up with this much experience, zero flight hours, and then in the course of that study, and when I graduated, I had sold several airplanes on an airplane without an instructor. We learned instrument flight. We received online instrument ratings to be able to fly in the weather without being able to visually see, navigating on instruments. We learned formation flight. We learned to fly at low level, which is low and fast, navigating with a clock and a compass to navigate along the ground. And we learned formation flight within 3 feet of another airplane, heading in the same direction to accomplish a single mission. So it was fantastic training in the course of a year. And my first assignments after completing pilot training with second lieutenant bars on my chest and brand new wings on my shoulder and wings on my chest. My first assignment was to fly the KC-135. So here's the second question. Has anyone heard of the KC-135 and the mission that it performs? Please, actually, let's go ahead and are there any teen drivers in the room today? We're too young to have driver's licenses.
I don't know.
You get your permit, perfect. So what do? You're driving along with your buddies or your mom, and you see the low fuel light on your car. What do?
Our equipment is mine, so I will talk about the meeting once we go to wherever we have to be and figure that out.
Perfect. So the KC-135 is about 130 feet long. It's about 130 feet wide, and it carries 30,000 gallons of fuel. 30,000 gallons of fuel. And its mission is to refuel other airplanes in the sky. And so my son never misses an opportunity to tell me that his dad passes gas for a living. That's exactly true. So in the KC-135, we'll receive a tasking. And that tasking might say, we want you to fly to this point in space, arrive there on this heading at this speed, normally about 300 knots, about 350 or so miles per hour, and look for this airplane. And the other airplane will receive tasking, often from a different base, from a different state, will also receive a tasking. We want you to fly to that same point, at the same altitude, or at a slightly lower altitude, in the same direction, at the same speed. And what we'll do is we'll affect the runway. We'll join in the air, and we're going to learn this. They can teach you some aerodynamics, I believe, in the next session. But what we'll find is when two airplanes have the same relative speed, going the same direction, their closure rate is 0. And so that airplane will pull 12 feet behind the KC-135. My boom operator, who's laying on his belly, facing backwards into the airplane, will lower what we call an air refueling boom, extend the nozzle to make a physical connection with the other airplane. They'll advise the crew, contact with the connection at that point until my co-pilot starts pumping, and now we're pumping gas. And so effectively, we'll fuel that airplane in the air. And that's what the airplane does, but the capability that it provides, I think, is more important, which is to extend the range of other airplanes in our air reserves. So right here in Missouri, over near the Kansas City area, there's a squadron of B-2 bombers. Right? The B-2 bomber, the most expensive and most sophisticated airplane we have in our inventory. It can take off from the Kansas City area and strike any target on the globe. How does that happen? It happens because of air refuel. So the airplane can take off, and over the course of several refuelings, go hit its target, turn around, refuel, and land safe and sound here in the Midwest and not have to be threatened by any bad. So that's the capability of the KC-135. Let me tell you, it's a great mission. It's a fantastic mission. And what I later learned, and this will be a theme, is that it was as rewarding as it was fun. Right? Knowing that I had a small part, my crew had a small part in accomplishing the objectives of another airplane. So that was pretty cool. So, KC-135, air refueling was the first mission that the Air Force asked me to do. The second was VIP transport. What are VIPs? Very important. So that next assignment was to go fly to the Gulfstream V, the G5. This is not a military airplane. This is a civilian officer. When Justin Bieber wants to travel, he doesn't travel. He doesn't go to Delta or American. He has his crew fly his G5 or his Gulfstream to wherever he needs to go. The same goes to senior military leaders and senior civilian leaders. So with that mission, we transported 4-star generals, Air Force, Navy, all the services, who had incredibly vast areas of responsibility, right? It's not like they're only in charge of this base. they have global continental responsibility, and so we're able to transport them wherever they need to go promptly and safely. And while we're traveling, with about a 6,000 mile range, we're able to provide them secure and non-secure communications. They can eat, sleep, rest, work, as if they're on the ground in the force or headquarters. So that's the value proposition that we will provide in that mission, and it's a blast. So the Air Force brought me to the St. Louis area. That's why we're here today. Who knows if there's an Air Force base right across the river at Scott Air Force Base on the Illinois side. So that was my last duty assignment, again flying a VIP transport mission. It was time for me to retire. The Midwest was good to us, so we planted our flag here in this area and called this home. And I transitioned to a civilian corporate pilot. So how is corporate aviation different from military aviation? Flew the same airplane, flew the Gulfstream V, but we had a different mission. Our mission was to support senior business leaders. So I work for a private company here in town. It's a very large company. They have business interests in 88 countries around the globe, right? 22 billion in annual revenue. And it's my job, it's our department's job to transport our chairman, our CEO, all of their senior vice presidents, wherever they need to go to conduct this meeting. So it's a different type of reward, it's a different type of gratification, but it's equally important. So my boss, and this is a story that Vic shared earlier, actually I'll tell his story. He was in the same mission here in town. If our boss has a meeting in China on Thursday morning, we can fly the timing, so we'll land an hour before his meeting. He conducts his meeting, completes the meeting, and as soon as he's done, a new crew shows up from our company to take him back to home in St. Louis and continue and stay productive all along the way. So what we do is we make the world smaller for those executives and are able to have a small part and contribute to the bottom line. They have the mission, right? When I wake up in my hotel in China, I grab a local newspaper and I'll see, hey, Enterprise Holdings just negotiated a strategic agreement with China connected to maybe 30 million for the next 2 years. I wasn't there for my crew, but again, that small role. It's a lot like the discussion on the airplane going to the South America, right? These young people will have a very small role in the pre-flight that you perform to ensure the success of that airplane and the Wings of Hope mission in South America. And that's something you guys should be proud of as well. Any questions about what I've shared so far? Types of careers, my path thus far, military aviation, corporate aviation, military flight training. Oh, that's a great question. So, the question was how many hours did I log in the first year? So if you haven't already noticed, hours are the street cred for pilots, right? No one amasses 50 years, I'm sorry, but for everyone else in the community, it's all about how many hours do you have. I think I mentioned I showed up to flight training with 0 hours. What I meant to say is those are 0 flight hours. That was 0 time. The question is how many hours did I log in the first year? And I'll address that in a different way. And this is military aviation. There are professionals on the corporate side with more experience that can address the corporate side. But when you show up as a brand new aviator to the squadron in the Air Force, your title is co-pilot. And as a co-pilot, you have one job. That's to know your airplane inside out. Right? You may have trained in a smaller airplane, maybe not even a jet. You get to your first assignment, your task is co-pilot. And your job is to learn the airplane, all the systems, all the checklists, certainly how to operate it, and you're going to fly quite a lot. So we measured our time actually by the number of days deployed, because we were quite busy, so I don't think I deployed 180 days a year away from home, conducting missions. Selfishly, was in pursuit of being better. Co-pilots upgrade to the next level, and that is that of aircraft commander. Right? Co-pilot is to know his own job, and aircraft commander's purpose is is to know the mission, right? We had 4 crew members in the KC-135, an aircraft commander in the left seat, a co-pilot in the right seat, a boom operator that waved on his belly to pass the gas to the receiver airplane, and a navigator. So the aircraft commander's job was to know a little bit about everyone else's job, to know the mission of that airplane, and know all of the components that are required to get the job done. Air traffic control. I saw your pretest. A lot of those answers on the pretest were not directly in the pilot's job description, but he needs to know enough to be able to get the job done. Most folks upgrade from co-pilot to aircraft commander. Several are selected to become an instructor. The instructor's job is to train junior pilots, right, to help them upgrade and ensure they're proficient. And a select few are chosen to become examiners or evaluators. And that is certainly not the most fun to have in an airplane, examining others, but it's certainly the most important, right, to ensure that standards are met and to have tough conversations with those that are not quite ready for the next term. So, long answer to that question. I hope that helps. All right.
My question is, how many hours do you require when there's training in the Air Force? Or is there
It depends. So I'll avoid the question. It depends on the mission. It depends on the progression of the individual. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Can you restate how you got so passionate about aviation? Did you have an environment like this where we're hearing the noise of airplanes outside? Were you out there working for a program and helping refueling planes at that time?
None of the
But
above.
to help these students here kind of acclimated to
The question was, how did I become passionate about flying airplanes and aviation? Was it the airplane noise in the hangar? I did not grow up in a hangar. I think we heard that earlier too. I didn't grow up in a hangar. My father was an Army enlisted soldier. Right? He served almost 30 years in the Army. And for me personally, and again, this is my story, growing up in that environment where all my other buddies had parents that served in the Army, and we moved every 3 years to a new location, didn't know anyone, but instantly it felt like home and a brotherhood. There were lots of undertones of leadership, taking care of each other, and I didn't know the word at the time, but it was service, right, within that Army community. So I told my dad that I wanted to become a military officer. So it was an attraction to the military life first. He told me that, son, I would never push you to join the military, but if you do, don't join the Army. So that discussion led me to the Air Force. Perception or not, the perception was that the quality of life is much higher in the Air Force. It's true. That's how I got to the Air Force. When I got to the Air Force, I said computer science, and I wanted to be a programmer and get my nerd on. But I later learned that pilots run the Air Force. Pilots command at all levels, and I figured I'm going to go that route. And I didn't want to lead airmen. Aviation is something I should look into. So another long answer, but it was as a college senior, after going through the ROTC program, I learned of opportunities in aviation, and that's when I started walking that direction. And then later fell off. Any questions? Right. You have your journals, I'm sure you're writing down your habit. Talk about military air refueling, military VIP transport, corporate VIP transport, and then I guess service was the next point I wanted to speak to. I think we touched that. The military route offers a lot more than the technical training to fly an airplane, and that's something that was appealing to me. Leading others, I've had an opportunity to lead teammates of small teams, lead teammates of large teams. There were 1,400 folks, 1,400 aviators at the base of Scotland. Had the pleasure of lead folks in command, lead folks in all disciplines, to include outside of aviation. And just as I became older, that became more and more important to me. Today, while I'm not leading within my small team at my civilian employer, I'm finding other ways to contribute and to be involved with the community, and that scratches that same itch. That's something that I would encourage you to do as well. Any other questions before I check my notes?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
When you are on missions where you take VIPs to other countries, does that give you an opportunity to go out and explore the other
Maybe.
countries?
Yes. So within that, so let's go back to the air mission. We would deploy to Spain for a month, right? And fly missions, sometimes they're cargo missions, or fly training missions. When the airplane's not flying, when my name is not on the flight schedule, I'm going exploring and learning and scratching that itch that we talked about. In this VIP transport context, the answer is the same, yes. Typical tasking or mission, 3 to 5 days away. We'll go to a destination, drop off the boss. He goes off to his meeting, while he's there. Why not explore and continue to learn about the local culture? That's a great question.
I think it really broadens your ideas about the world.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. And so, yes, ma'am.
Where are the different places that you traveled to?
Right, so,
What was your most favorite place?
I can answer that first. Tel Aviv in Israel. That was a short notice trip, but just like I mentioned while there, I had a week off, and my crew did as well. And Tel Aviv is a center of gravity in just about every religion on the planet. Right? Christianity, Judaism, and Orthodox Catholicism all have holy sites there in Jerusalem. That was easily my most favorite. Where have I gone? I've had the privilege of going just like we've lived in Hawaii, physically lived in Hawaii, and we've been able to travel all across Asia. Lived in Florida while there. The mission that came was to support operations in all of South America, the KC-135 to Europe, Eastern Europe, Asia as well, so the Middle East. It's been great. So good question. Yes, ma'am.
If you were not able to join the Air Force, what was your second choice of military?
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, I knew a lot about the Army. There are some that look at that airplane and say that's a Wing 2 version 6 Block 2. I can do that with helicopters and Army tanks. All the Army munitions. That was the life I grew up in. That's too much. And Bill and I joke about Navy versus Air Force. They're all fantastic choices. Not for everyone. There's a bit of sacrifice involved. It's good to me. Great question. Yeah. Jet lag is the question. How do you cope with jet lag? Is everyone familiar with jet lag? Of course it is, right? How do you mitigate jet lag? Sleep is the best way to do so. So if I look at the schedule, I know that in 2 weeks I'm going east to Europe. About 3 or 4 days prior, I'm going to start waiting on the European time zone, right? So I'll go to bed early and I'll wake up early 3 or 4 days at 4 o'clock in the morning, and on the day of the trip, I'm well rested and ready to go, ready to leave the park. And as soon as I get there, while I do like to travel and explore other cultures, that's secondary to being prepared to return. So I know my return day and time, and I'll prepare myself to do the same. There are lots of studies that say that diet, believe it or not, is something you're aware of. Diet is a great way to mitigate as well. Stay hydrated. There are lots of ways to address that. Sleep is very good drugs. Right? There are drugs that you can take to make you, to help you sleep, to sure you do that with us before it's time to fly.
So if you were not in the military, what would your next choice for working be? Would you have stayed with aviation or would you have done something?
Again, I wasn't aware of aviation when I decided that the military was for me. So I loved computers and technology. I still do. So I would pursue a career in that space. Very good question.
Any other questions for Derrick before we move on?
Ian has a question.
Yes, sir.
When you joined the Air Force, did you want to fly a KC-135 or something?
It was high on my list. Yeah. So, did I want to fly KC-135 when I joined the Air Force? Was the question. It was high on my list. So, the cool thing about pilot training in the Air Force, there are Air Force pilots charged to instruct, right, at that course. And those pilots come from every discipline that the Air Force has. I think it's intentional, right? So, while I'm learning big trees and small trees, I'm also learning about the Air Force along the way. And so, today's flight might be with a former B-2 pilot. Tomorrow's flight might be from a former KC-135 pilot. So I had a chance to grill folks more seasoned than me. And the more I heard about that mission, the more I learned. Good question.